Brad, I started using DuckDuckGo.
Wait, are you saying you trust ducks with your search results?
It turns out I like DuckDuckGo.
Go on.
Do you remember when Google, you'd type search results in and then at the very top of the page would be the number one search result, like the best result for that on the internet?
Yes. Well, best, right? In quotes.
Most popular, wildly successful.
Yes. For varying definitions of best. Yes.
That's how it works now. There aren't any, like, it doesn't excerpt any stuff from like the top result and be like, yo, here's the bad version of the thing that we think you're trying to answer. It doesn't have any ads. It doesn't have like a celebrity panel on the side that's like, Ernest Borgnine is a Dutch American actor who starred in such films as blah, 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 blah. It's just the search results.
No algorithms, just search.
Well, no, the algorithms drive the search results. But other than that, that's it.
No, I know. No data extracted and shoved in your face.
It's just everything you want with none of the stuff you don't want.
It's just Google without all the bullshit.
Yeah. Like, I like it. It turns out it's really good to just get the search results and not all of. I thought I needed the bullshit. I think I was addicted to the bullshit, but now I'm clean.
Do you have any idea who runs that thing? I'm pulling it up right now.
I assume it's just a bunch of ducks.
I don't know if you want ducks running your search results. Are you sure about this?
They're doing a pretty good. Look, I haven't had to go. Okay, so I still use the Google app on my phone because I kind of like the algorithmic news on the homepage for that thing. Like it does a reasonably good job of getting me like 90% of things that I'm interested in, then 10% that's just utter garbage that I never want to see again. But yeah, it seems pretty good.
You know what? I actually just went to their homepage and right at the top, well, not right at the top, but if you scroll halfway down, how does DuckDuckGo make money?
Oh,
what does Google know about me? Why use DuckDuckGo instead of Google? They seem to be pretty upfront about all this stuff. There's a friendly graphic here of a little monster and a lady in a lab coat.
I like that they imply that your personal identifiable information and advertisers who track you are a ghost that would chase you while you're running away.
Data ghosts.
Data ghosts.
I don't want to be chased.
I'm afraid of data ghosts.
Does this integrate into browsers? Can you?
I type in at my location bar in Firefox and it takes me directly to DuckDuckGo.
I bet Chrome doesn't let you do that.
You can change the default. I'm pretty sure you can change the default search engine in Chrome. I'm sure they're still reporting your business to Google, but
you absolutely can. I could be using Yahoo search right now.
Brad, I have bad news for you. I don't think Yahoo exists anymore.
Oh, wow.
I think they're gone.
Somebody should let the Chrome settings people know.
But yeah, it's like the other day I was setting something up on a content portal and one of the options for your company's social stuff was Mixer. I was like, oh man.
Just, yes, pour one out.
Pour one out for Mixer.
I mean, look, I would be asking Jeeves to this day if I could, but you know how that went.
Did you? I never was a Jeeves guy.
I wasn't either. It was just a joke.
Oh, I was a Lycos and a web crawler guy.
Lycos, interesting. I was Alta Vista.
Alta Vista was like my third. That was if the first two didn't work.
Who made Alta Vista? Was that Deck?
Netscape ended up owning Alta Vista, I believe.
I want to say,
but I don't remember.
See, wasn't it?
Do you remember Metacrawler?
Vaguely.
You typed one thing in there and it would search all of the big search engines, including Jeeves.
I mean, Jeeves is the authority, right?
It popped a window with 4 frames with the search results for each of the different web search engines in the corners of the frames. Remember frames?
Hey, look, if DuckDuckGo can get some frame display going, then I might be on board.
It's a good place to stop it.
Yeah, I think there were maybe 2 or 3
couple
places
of cuts there. Yeah,
in there.
One of them was real short, I think.
Alta Vista was Deck. Remember Digital Equipment Corporation?
I remember Deck. I had to maintain a Deck machine when I was at UT. It was a real pain in the ass. That thing ran so fucking hot because it was these SIMD cores that were just running at like a million gigahertz at that point. It was like overclocked and the fan sounded like a fucking jet engine when you turned it on.
They made their own CPU, right? Deck Alpha.
Yes, the Alpha was a SIMD design that was 32. Maybe it was 64-bit early. I can't remember. It was unusual in some way. You could get NT 3.514 and Windows 2000 for it.
The days of the big iron.
Oh yeah, gotta have that. The guy who used that machine was a cognitive psychology professor who had massive, but at the time massive data sets, but it was like, a few million lines in a database, not billions.
Yes, I know about the Deck Alpha because I've been making my way through some mid-90s era John Carmack plan files.
Ooh,
and
he talked about it a lot.
Yeah, he's in there talking about like the giant server they just bought. Like he's like, this is practically in the top 500 supercomputers in the world right now. But then he goes on to list the cores, or they weren't cores, they were discrete physical CPUs. But he lists the CPUs out at like 166 megahertz each.
We should start the show.
Yeah, this is good material.
I know.
Where should we stick this? I think we already started.
Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad. Let's just put this in there.
We'll just do 2 cold opens this week. It's fine.
I guess I wasn't talking in podcast voice.
Look, wait, do you do a different voice for your podcast?
I always feel bad when we have an off the cuff conversation just for ourselves, and then we realize it's good material and we stick it in, and it's like, they're going to hear me. I'm just talking. I'm not talking. I'm just talking.
I mean, I like to think of that as the curse of the podcaster. Anytime I'm talking to somebody and like I have an interesting conversation with them, I'm like, shit, this is podcast material.
Everything is content.
I hate that, but I also love it.
That's the 21st century on planet Earth. Everything is content.
Everything is content.
Okay.
Sorry, we have a lot of kids' music in my house now.
I know streamers who have told me, I mean, God help me, I think we are entering this world ourselves now.
Brad, you're a streamer.
Yeah, I know, right? But
I saw you on twitch.tv yesterday.
Well, we're probably not going to go to this extent, but I know streamers who have told me like every single second they're playing a game not on stream, they're telling themselves like, I should just be playing this on stream. Like, so start to finish. I mean, these are the types of people who play every game start to finish.
So I don't, for me, like, I mostly stream PUBG and then I also stream some indie games, but like, I'm playing Immortals Phoenix Rising because it was on sale the other day and I picked it up because I wanted to try it out.
That's a good game.
Because it looked cool.
Yeah.
And it turns out it is cool, but it's not the kind of thing I would ever play on stream. So I absolutely don't feel guilty not playing a giant open world exploration game that would take me 6 months to finish on the stream.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those tend to be pretty rote to me. Like if there's not a lot of what's the game design term? The possibility space is fairly limited.
Yeah.
I feel like if there aren't a lot of decisions you can make at any given time, if there's sort of the one thing the designer wants you to do and that's all you can do, I don't feel like those types of games are super interesting to stream.
Well, it's interesting because like, if I had to, my channel thesis is probably I like games with massive possibility space.
Yes.
Like that's why I like that was the thing that was intoxicating about PUBG. It's a shooter that ultimately your goal is to click on people's faces, but the stuff between the clicking on faces is infinite.
Yes. If I can sit here and try to coin some other highfalutin game design terminology, I like to think of the sort of decision point. Like you hit a point in the flow of the game where you have like X number of things you could spoke out from there and do.
Yeah.
And you can pick one of those things. And usually it's like, do I want to set this thing on fire or do I want to freeze it?
Well, so it's interesting because you say that, but like when I was building VR software, one of the things you think about in VR a lot because you're taking over people's whole sensorium is how much cognitive load you're putting on them, like how much you're making him think at any given moment.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, the guinea pigs are
the
active. Second of all,
do you hear the weaking, Clarice?
Well, I think they heard the term sensorium and became discombobulated.
Oh no! It's like crinkling lettuce for them.
Is that a term you used when you were doing business with people?
Well, so sensorium comes up, yeah. Like when you take over everything people can see and hear.
I mean, I got the context. It's just such a like Professor Will's magical sensorium.
Welcome to my sensorium. So, but no, you have to think about that stuff because like you need to give them enough interesting things to do that they aren't going to want to take off the headset and look at their phone.
Sure.
Like that's the thing you're competing against in every form of media today.
Right.
Like if you're watching TV, is it interesting enough I don't want to look at my phone? Probably not. If I'm watching a movie on the couch, is it interesting enough I don't want to look at my phone? My phone, it turns out, is maybe the most interesting thing in the whole world, Brad.
See, this makes me feel very grateful. I mean, I'm sure this makes me a fuddy-duddy that I think the phone is to be avoided whenever possible. I like not looking at the phone.
For you, that is a choice that you are making. That is you saying I am stronger than my basest urges. Most people are not stronger than their basest urges.
That's, looking at the sum total of human history and experience, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, you live an aesthetic life, Brad. You're a digital monk, I think.
Yes. I am absolutely. This apartment might as well be a monastery.
But the cognitive load thing is an interesting thing for video games too, because like if you think about it, a game like the games that I like and the games that I enjoy playing the most are the ones that make me like give me no idle time for my neuroses and anxiety to take over my brain. So I'm entirely focused on the task at hand.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, when you're streaming, there is a whole extra layer of not only what is engaging the participant who is actually playing, but like what is going to be engaging for people to watch. Like that's the real goal there, is to create improvisation, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Right? Like you want unexpected things to happen, and like those kind of emergent narrative situations to come about organically as people are watching, because that's what people remember. It's
interesting because I've been watching some GTA. Some friends got into GTA role playing lately, and it's really fun because it's like an 8-hour-a-day soap opera, right? Like you watch it and they're just doing mad, amazing improv all the time in a highly modifiable GTA world that also is still GTA as GTA at its core. Like there's NPCs walking around and they're just GTA NPCs doing GTA NPC stuff. But then like you can buy houses and stuff. So like the person I was watching the other day had bought a house and she came home from doing some crimes during the day, and there were a bunch of NPCs laying around, like laying on her pool, having a pool party. And she was like, these freaking locals. And she just went back there and beat the living shit out of them.
I mean, did anybody give them permission to use her pool?
No, that's why she was pissed. But like,
it's like that I blame her.
Yeah, it's like an opportunity for like, it's like you said, it's finding the opportunities for improv and everything. Right. And that's the thing that I love about streaming and watching streams and all.
I mean, are those streamers doing actual voices? Are they playing literal characters?
Oh, dude, there are rules. You should look into this. You would like this would either stress you out or you would love it. I don't know which.
Probably the former. I've been looking at Twitch more in the last 2 weeks than probably the last 2 years.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. B, I've looked at the GTA RP stuff just enough to see that they're getting like unthinkable numbers of viewers on some of those streams. I mean, like 70, 80,000 people at a time.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations, by the way. We buried the lead here, but congratulations on the launch, man. You guys knocked it out of the park, I think.
Thank you so much. I am terrible talking about myself, and it's hard for me to take compliments and congratulations, so I was avoiding it. But yes, thank you so much.
For people who don't know, I'll do it for you so you don't have to. Brad and our friends Vinny and Alex launched a new a new podcast?
A new property?
A business?
I guess it's sure. I mean, we have a company bank account. I guess it is a business now.
Yeah, called Nextlander. You launched the Patreon. You launched on Twitch.
Podcast. I think we envisioned it as a podcast first, I would say.
Okay.
We kind of make sure we get the podcast right and build out from there. But yes, we have Twitch and YouTube channels.
You coming to TikTok? You got that TikTok?
We got the TikTok name. I don't know that we've used it yet.
Shit.
I hear TikTok monetizes pretty generously though. Look, so maybe we should try to figure out how to go viral on TikTok.
I think Vinny's particular brand of charming insanity would do very well on TikTok.
We should probably look into that. I don't know if he edits in that aspect ratio though. We'll have to.
He could be the garrulous uncle of TikTok if he played his cards right.
We're gonna have to figure that one out. Do people over 40?
They're looked upon with suspicion.
Do they get to use TikTok? Is that allowed? But in terms of service,
TikTok has transitioned away from. It's like, remember how Snap used to be for sharing nudes of yourself?
Yes,
and now it's just like music videos and stuff. I guess I don't know.
Sure. Okay.
It's the same thing. It's not for kids anymore. The kids still do kind of side eye the olds occasionally.
That's always to be expected.
I got an OK Boomer comment on one of my videos once. And I was like, well, I'm banning that person forever. You can go straight to hell.
I was young once, believe it or not. I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
That mentality. But yeah, so yes, thank you so much to everybody who's listening to this and has supported Nextlander. If you would like to find out more, you can go to nextlander.com, or we have that name on Twitch, on Twitter, all over the place if you want to check that stuff out. But I don't know what to say, honestly. Like, it is
it's awesome.
The support has been so humbling and so beyond literally by the numbers, like so far beyond anything we expected by several times.
I think I sent you a message at like 9 o'clock in the morning after you'd been up for an hour and you'd hit 1,000 or 1,500 patrons. And I was like, I think you guys are going to be okay.
Yeah,
and you're like,
so.
I don't know yet, man.
Yeah.
You're probably fine.
Our heads are spinning trying to figure out how to take all this in and where to go.
I mean, you just get down and do the work, right?
Right.
Like you make the show and like you figure out where you are in a few weeks, and then you make more shows, and then, you go from there.
I cannot tell you how badly my brain wants to do the work and not the company setup stuff. Like that stuff is terrifying. Like the
oh yeah,
figuring out incorporation and like estimated taxes and like you name
health insurance. Have you done health insurance yet?
That is because of the way the Cobra stuff works. That's at least
you have some time
in place for a while. If it's not the cheapest solution, but at least there's that. What I mean though is like, so it was weird. We got a Google Workspace. We have like proper email addresses. It's like
it's a business. It's a job.
It's a proper little thing. But like a few PR folks in games found like our kind of public info address before we started doing any outreach because we just haven't had time yet.
Yeah.
And started sending us just like some press releases, just like some.
That's awesome.
The basic ass video game press release that I have been getting in my inbox for like pushing 20 years now. Yeah. I cannot tell you how comforting it was to see those press releases come in. It was just like this like familiar, comfortable little blanket of like, just some outreach about a video game. Like there's no business decisions to make here. There's no name to figure out or like logo samples to look at or like it's just the actual work.
It's nice to just like know that you're not starting from zero. Right.
Yes, for sure.
I like when I started Tested, I remember like it was small when we started Tested. And I remember the first time a PR person reached out and were like, hey, we'd love to talk to you. And it wasn't something we were going to cover, but like, I will always be grateful for that person for paying attention and being like, hey, I think that the stuff that you're doing is important enough that we need to engage with you to try to get you to cover our content, our product.
I am literally going to write back to the first PR person who reached out to us and just say like, thank you so much for reaching out to us. Like this was such a comfort. In a very hectic time.
Well, and it's like you guys launched it's a time when it's easy to get lost, right?
Yes, it certainly is.
Because it's E3 week.
Yeah.
So
you know a little something about.
I'm on the other side, Brad.
I don't know how much you want to get into that. Thank you again. Just again, I cannot say thank you enough to the people that have supported us so far. All I can think of to say is that it feels like a huge responsibility, and we are going to do our damnedest to do right by the support that you've shown us.
Oh, shucks, man.
Yeah, that's me. That's my brand.
I know, Mr. Aw Shucks.
Let's talk about you.
So I started at Straight Bombay a month. I don't know what this episode. We don't know exactly. This is going to be like a weird in between. This is going to be a potpourri episode.
Yes,
probably.
Between us getting this business off the ground and you guys revealing your game yesterday and all the stuff that went into that.
Yeah. So
we had more formed ideas for this episode that we started to get into. We were talking about doing WWDC and Google. What's the Google?
Google I/O.
Right? Yeah. Like we were thinking about doing that. But
I think we'll still touch on that, but it's probably gonna be next week. I don't think they're like the iOS 15 stuff looked really neat. I didn't have a chance to dig into any of it at all.
Yeah, it's like doing the research was kind of the problem. We have like a pretty respectable list of show ideas in this Google Doc now.
Yeah, we filled it out nicely at the Patreon episode last month.
Yeah, and we added some more since then.
Ooh.
But yes, this is one of those potpourri episodes, I think.
So I started at Stray Bombay. Today is actually the end of my 4th week. So I started middle of May and basically went in on day one. Stray Bombay is Chet Falasek and Kimberly Vole. So Chet was from Valve and did Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 and Portal. I think he wrote Portal and was the lead on Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. And Kim wrote AI is a doctor, has a doctorate in artificial intelligence.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, she's very smart. It's like I'm sitting, I listen to her talking, I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Like Left 4 Dead is one thing to have on your resume, but AI PhD is quite another.
And she was at Riot and also started the Fair Play Alliance. She was one of the co-founders of the Fair Play Alliance, which is the we want to design games that make people less toxic because they're they're not mechanically encouraging people to be toxic.
That's an interesting and noble goal.
It's looking at how it works in So that like 3 years ago, they were talking and realized they liked the same kind of games. And we're like, let's go make a studio together. So they went and made a studio together and hired a bunch of people. Well, a bunch of people, I say a bunch, like it was 12 for a long time, apparently. We're up to 21 now, I think. So it's a small studio. We announced our game yesterday. Well, it's Thursday for you all. Thank you.
Congratulations. You made it on through the hot game summer.
We were on the Summer Game Fest with Jeff Keighley
That's
and live kickoff.
Yeah.
Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. But we're making a game called the Anacrusis, and it's like a retro future 30. I can't believe I'm fumbling this. I said it 50 times this week.
Remember your media training, man.
I know. It's a cooperative 4-player first-person shooter set in a retro future sci-fi world where aliens are like where humanity expanded through the stars for a long time, and then all of a sudden aliens attacked. And kind of we didn't know what to do about that. We hadn't had any kind of challenges like that as a species. And it's in a very Left 4 Dead sense. It's like 4 unlikely heroes who are chucked into this situation, have to kind of figure it out. There's a lot of kind of, the characters talking to each other as you play and moving through this world and
like scenario based and kind of meant to be replayed.
Yeah, the whole point of what Kim does is that the game is wildly different each time you play. And we're going to like part of our challenge is figuring out how to communicate that to the audience, because like you don't see that, you don't see that in the 20 seconds of a trailer of gameplay on a trailer or something like that. You see that when you're making the trailer, because you have to do the same thing over and over and over and over again to get the footage. And you're like, oh man, this is really fun, really frustrating to make a trailer. It turns out
that sounds like a fun challenge though. Like that's the type of stuff. Those are the types of weird little challenges that I have always relished. Like did you ever know about that Shadow Complex incident we had early on at Giant Bomb?
No. Wait. Was there a secret thing under the office in Sausalito?
No, I apologize to people. I've told this story a couple times over the years. I apologize to people who've already heard this, but it was early. I mean, Shadow Complex came out like a year into like Giant
2008 Bomb. Or something. Yeah.
2009 maybe.
Yeah.
And
before I started.
Long story short, Donald Mustard came by the office with the game, and Ryan and I sat down and we did it might have been like the first Quick Look EX of him playing it and telling us about it while we talked to him. And what happened was, you record audio and video separately. The audio all recorded just fine. The video, something was wrong with the frame rate on the capture, and it was like 10 frames a second or something.
The
footage was just unusable, and we didn't have a build. Or no, I'm sorry. They did leave us with a build of the game. But, he was gone. He had left town by the time we figured out what was wrong. So I sat there for like a day or two listening to him and us talk in my head and watching that busted footage over and over and screen by screen, because that game's broken up into rooms like Metroid style. So there's like a nice hard cut between rooms. So it's easy to stitch a bunch of different captures together.
So you just recreated it?
I methodically learned every single thing he did in that 12-minute demo and recreated every action down to the grenade throw. I had to make sure the grenade went right under the robot in the right spot and blew up at the right time. I had to make sure I hit, because he was like, oh, I nailed that headshot. And I was having to hit the same headshot he did at the same moment.
Wow.
But it was super fun. It was ridiculous and maybe a questionable use of resources and time, but it was such a bizarre challenge to take on and really fun to pull off.
Oh, that's really, yeah. Like a lot of trailer stuff for us was figuring out how to get the AI to do the thing that we wanted it to do.
Right.
So like we have tools that let you set up monsters in certain spaces and stuff like that, and then turn the AI on all at once. So then they'll do something. But because we talked about this in some of the interviews, so it's nothing new. But the pathing, we don't do we don't have to manually create pathing for the bots, for the NPCs. We put the geo for the world in the level and hit the button, run a script that does some math, and then the bots know where to go, right? They can know which things they can climb over. They know which things they have to go around. They know what the fastest point between A and B for any set of A and B on the map. And they know where the players are going to start and where the players are going to end, and a bunch of other interesting stuff.
You guys, which engine are you on?
Unreal.
Okay.
So
Unreal 4. Oh, it have to
it's all Unreal 4 right now. Nobody's using Unreal 5 right now.
Yes.
Unreal 5 will be ready in 6 to 8 months for people to start, who are insane, to start working on stuff.
To start working on, right? Not.
You could start working on something now. It seems ill.
It seems
It seems like look, if you have a real job and you want to make a game and you want to noodle with something, start with Unreal 5. If you want to ship something in the next 18 to 24 months, Unreal 4 is your baby.
God, that's crazy to say. Like when you think about before you know it, we'll be a year into this generation of consoles. Like, is UE5, are shipping UE5 games going to be a kind of back half of this generation phenomenon? Like that's kind of what it sounds like.
I'm sure that there's someone out there right now that's making a UE5 game, screaming at their radio and being like, "Hey, dumbass, we're making UE5 games, right?" But it's pretty raw.
You could see like some games of smaller scope, right? Some like indies that are not like, massive $100 million productions.
Yeah, and also like if you're starting now and you're going to be on UE5 and you're spending this time prototyping mechanics and stuff like that, then you can probably change that stuff over pretty quickly. Like once you start, like there's a period of time after which you do not want to have to do any engine upgrades at all.
Right. And I mean, like Unreal, I think that's this kind of core to their business model now, right? That like Unreal kind of scales to all tiers of development, right? Like that's kind of that's how they went up against Unity, right? Like Unity kind of had the indie market to a large degree. And then
the basic deal is that until you make a fair amount of money, you don't have to pay anybody anything right now.
Right.
And then once you start making and you can choose to just say, hey, we want the game. I think the deal with the Unreal games, I feel like I don't know if this is still the case. This isn't inside information. This is just based on what was reported years ago when EGS launched. But like if you sell your game on EGS, then you don't have to pay the Unreal licensing fees for any games that are sold on that platform.
I think that's right. Yeah.
So like it's a real, and also while Unity has gone kind of more toward tools in the last few years, like there's a lot of like tooling stuff that's built up around Unity now in like VR and AR spaces and stuff like that. I feel like Unreal has really leaned into games in a big way. So I don't know.
Yes. And TV production.
And the TV production stuff is really big. Yeah.
Yes.
The photoreal stuff in 5, like I'm super stoked about it. I can't wait to see games that are shipping with that. And somebody will do that sooner rather than later. But like, I think most people, if you don't have ins or don't have some sort of connection or, a brain genius on graphics, you're probably using UE4 right now.
Yeah, I am utterly fascinated by the nanite stuff, all the virtualized geometry, like the kind of the eradication of discrete levels of detail, like that whole thing just going away and everything just being like smoothly rendered at all distances now, like to the point that I pulled up some of their actual documentation on the engine and started trying to read it, and it's highly technical, and I need to find like a layperson's explainer of that stuff. But I am fascinated by it because like if you work backwards, Brian Karras, the guy who is kind of the main architect of that stuff, like you can find like talks and blog posts and stuff that he was putting up a decade ago about his very sort of primordial ideas for that stuff. Like it's crazy to think how long that stuff, like since, to put it in like historical perspective, like since the Xbox 360 was the big console, like he has been working on that stuff. Like it's crazy how long it took for that to come to fruition.
They've been thinking about this stuff since programmable shaders were a novel technology, right?
Right.
It's been like that stuff is fascinating. I'm really interested to see environments that aren't desert.
Mm-hmm. Sure, like environments that change, like things that move, potentially
trees,
right?
Maybe,
yes, yeah. Things that are just static and round,
bushes that move.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of games that do a lot with bushes and trees that don't do any movement at all, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to see some more varied environments on that stuff sooner rather than later.
I'm certainly no game developer, but my gut feeling is maybe the nanite stuff is like something you would use case by case rather than globally. Like I started playing the new Ratchet and Clank on PS5 last night, and like there is a ray tracing mode.
Yeah,
but I would guess that's applied very selectively, right? Like shiny metal and puddles probably get the ray tracing, and everything else is more traditional
shadows,
raster lighting.
Often people use the inverse of the rays to make the shadows look real and dynamic, and like if the character self shadows and stuff like that, that's probably ray tracing at this point,
right?
So anyway, yeah, we launched the game. It's you can find it at the Anacrusis. We announced the game. We did not launch the game. Jesus,
I don't think you, unless you press the wrong button on one of those back ends you've been working with.
Look, I have a lot of thoughts about the back ends.
See, I would do this entire episode about the work you've been doing. Like I live for CMSs and shell scripts and all the back end crap you have to do to make things happen. Like I am so interested in like console dashboards and like their store infrastructure and just like all the nuts and bolts of what makes all these embedded systems work. To the point that like if we were not still doing this public thing and I went behind the scenes and just found quiet work, I would probably look into something like that.
So what I will say is that there's a big opportunity for someone who is a graphic design firm that specializes in taking existing assets and making them look good on the different storefronts. I don't know that exists. If it does, please let me know because I would like to engage them.
Okay. As opposed to, say, you resizing graphics manually.
It's not that I can't resize graphics. It's that if somebody who is good at it did it, it would look a lot better. I mean, I think what I ended up doing. Okay, so first off, there's a lot of people that help with all of this stuff. Like there's people that are grabbing assets and people that are helping me figure out how to build templates and all that stuff, which it has been amazing. And I wouldn't be able to do it otherwise. Like it's one of the constants of my life as an adult is that I have realized that there is literally always more to something than you think there is from the outside once you start actually doing the work.
Yes.
And that applies to like, machining and welding and
everything, literally
like,
everything,
literally everything.
There is, unless you have done the job yourself, you don't know what goes into the job. That sounds very self-evident, but
it's not, it's something I didn't appreciate when I was 20 and had two jobs and one of them was waiting tables. You know what I mean?
Nobody does, like I've made the same mistake. I continue to make the same mistake. Like it's a bad human tendency to look at a vacuum and fill it with your, project your own ideas onto it. Especially when your own ideas are like, well, I can't tell what they're doing, so they must be doing nothing.
Well, so that's exactly it. And like I work on a team of really, really smart people. And the company's flat we're small enough that works really well for us. I hope that continues because it's awesome, because it means that if somebody has questions about what's on the Steam page, then they just come over and ask me. And if I want to talk about, difficulty in the game and how we're balancing ammo consumption versus damage and stuff like that, then I can pop into that meeting and listen and see where we're going and what people are thinking. And it's given me a lot of appreciation for how complicated and how thoughtful and how what's the right word? It's not deliberate, isn't it? But like people think about at least where I am when we talk about something like ammo consumption. People think about the entire spectrum of users, from the person who is like just like loads up the game the first time and they're a bad shot and they shoot an entire magazine into the wall and maybe hit 2 bullets on an alien, right? To like somebody like me who has a 99% headshot rate and like
99%, huh?
Like I'm like, can't beat 99%, Brad. I think that's a registered trademark of CBS Interactive. Anyway, no, it's you like the experience is different for everyone, and you have to account for all of these different play styles. And the person who you have to account for the person who likes using a pistol and a shotgun, right? Like pistol for range and shotgun for up close. And you have to account for a mixed group of people where 2 people are stone cold murderers and one person is like a 5-year-old and one person is somewhere in between. And as a result, the conversations you have around this stuff are deeper. And like I knew that these conversations existed. I did not appreciate how complicated it gets and how quickly on every aspect of making a game like this. And like, this is a game that is ultimately about shooting aliens. I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff that happens along the way, but it's I can't imagine when you get into a game that has like 55,000 verbs or something like that, and like there's a million, like there's a million side objects, side things that you can do at any given moment, and how you direct the player. Anyway, it's been really interesting. I did do some command line stuff yesterday.
Oh,
apropos of our conversation, I think last week.
Go on.
I installed PowerShell.
Oh, the PowerShell 7. PowerShell
7.
Did you get it from their GitHub repo?
I did get it from the GitHub repo.
The way they distribute that stuff is weird, because like PowerShell 5, I want to say 5 is what ships with Windows 10 still. And
yeah,
5 that ships with Windows 10 and 7 that you can go get from them now, which is the current version, kind of coexist on your system, I believe. Like,
yeah, you end up having them both installed, and I don't think 7 will install automatically. upgrade automatically. I have to do that manually.
Right. Like that stuff's a little confusing. I wish that they standardized like a lot of this open source stuff they're doing is a little ramshackle in terms of the way they're putting it out. Like that goes for PowerShell 7, Windows Terminal.
So I installed Windows Terminal. That's what I wanted to talk about because that is friggin' rad.
Windows Terminal is quite good. And what was the other one I was going? WinGet, which is the package manager that is, I guess, just went 1.0 actually. Like I think it might be in the fall feature update. I think they might put that in, but the point is right now, like all this stuff, you kind of just need to go to Microsoft's GitHub, which is still a weird thing to say, even though they own GitHub, and download installers. Like there's no sort of inline way to just get it.
My guess is that this stuff will end up being like Power Toys, where it ends up getting bundled,
right?
And like theoretically, WinGet should solve all of these problems.
Yeah,
right?
that's kind of what I want. You know, like the way that they just quietly included the Open SSH client in Windows a couple of years ago. Like I wish that's what they would do with all this stuff, because it's like small and inoffensive enough that they could just put it in every install and you don't need to think about it. You tell me.
I mean, that expands your threat surface though. So if they have problems with that software, then it's going to cause problems for everybody that has installed. So better to leave it optional, I think. But
that's a fair point.
But if you could so I had to install Node because I was installing. Are you familiar with the press kit, the open paren, close paren?
Node.js. Sorry, yes, Rami Ismail's press kit.
Rami Ismail's press kit tool.
Which is basically like, I just know this from osmosis, but that's basically just a common framework for developers to put like a kind of a standardized press pitch package together with assets and information and links and stuff, right?
So his default version is like a PHP script that reads some XML and folder structure and then generates like press kit pages. So it's like, here's who's in the company, who's the founders, what's the history, what's the thesis, you know, where are you based, what time zones, what's your phone number, what's your mailing address,
how can you get in touch with us? It's a very standardized, like nice, clean format that I've seen like over and over the years from indies in particular. Like it's a very cool thing he did. I can see why that would be super useful for small teams that don't have time to build something bespoke.
Yeah, like I was literally sitting in a Squarespace website the other day and I was like, shit, this is a complete waste of time. I'm trying to make this look good. I just need information here so that when somebody asks me for, you know, a video file and some pictures, I can send it out. So I went to PressKit and it runs on PHP. It's like, man, I don't have to set up a PHP server. I'm not going to fool with that. So then I searched for flat HTML PressKit parenthesis generator. And it turns out that there is one. Somebody made one.
They forked PressKit is what
Pixel Nest, which is another game studio, made one. They're the folks, they make they make a bunch of cool stuff like shmups and bullet hell games, it looks like. But they made a flat text generator, flat HTML generator that you basically install Node on your machine. You dump all the stuff that you need in a folder on your hard drive, run a script, and it generates the XML file, the HTML files, and the website, and all the JavaScript you need for the PressKit page to work. And then you just upload that to your web server. And I was like, well, shit. So like, where our host doesn't let us just upload files to the web server, what am I going to do? So I was like, I'm going to use GitHub Pages.
Okay.
So then I had to install Git. And so I had to install Node, which installed Chocolatey. So then I used Chocolatey to install Git, and I used Git to push it to GitHub. And we have a Pages.
Actual Git, like
command line ass Git.
Straight up Linus Torvalds developed Git is what you're talking about.
I did a Git add dash capital A. I did a Git commit dash M / first commit.
Man, that sounds fun.
I did Git push dash U dash F. I had to connect.
That's like, this is probably too deep for us, but that is some good old scene drama, actually, the creation of Git. Have you ever seen, like, that's come up like...
Did you get pissed off about Fitz's SVN or something?
I don't know if it was SVN, but it was something along those lines. It may well have been, but like that story has been told a few times on our Discord, and I always love getting in on that conversation. That yes, like he apparently made Git in like a week or two out of irritation. With
that
something
seems like
else.
A Linus Torvalds thing. Yeah.
And apparently I think he made it just for kernel source, just to do source control for the Linux kernel. It was not intended to be some industry-wide standard, which I gather from a lot of the developers on our Discord is like why the core Git user experience is a little rough.
So we used Git at Foo because like the game space. So Git is typically web developers and like people who work with a lot of text files, if you use a lot of binaries, people usually recommend use perforce, which is like basically these source managers differentiate between binary files like images and video and sound, and flat files, text files, ASCII, or I guess they're UTF files now, but text files that are ASCII readable by the diff command easier.
Plain text, yeah.
Plain text. Thank you. And Git launched LFS around the same time we launched. And when I asked people if we should do perforce, everybody's like, do you have someone that can spend a day or two a month keeping this running? And I was like, no, we do not have that. And they're like, use Git then. So we used Git. And the thing that happens when you use Git, if you don't have somebody in the organization that's good at Git, is you end up having a Post-it note on the side of your monitor that has the command to use when you fuck up Git.
Okay. What is the command? Do you have,
it's not here anymore. It's not my problem. I don't have to deal with that anymore.
Wait, is the Post-it note no longer in your line of sight?
I do not have the Post-it note here anymore.
Did you throw it away?
Yeah, dude, of course.
You might need it. You might need it again.
I mean, I do now. I wish I hadn't thrown it away, but I think it was Git. It's like Git stash, which saves all the work that's different from what's on the server. And then you use the thing to pull the new thing down, and then you merge it back in. Manually.
Okay. Can I intercede here very briefly?
Yes. Hello.
I was clicking around without thinking in the middle of the cold open. Apparently at some point changed my default Chrome search engine to something called Ecosia.
Oh.
ECOSIA.org.
What's Ecosia?
If you thought you were fancy on DuckDuckGo, apparently
it plants trees.
I'm sorry. Wow, trees. They claim to have planted over 127 million trees through their users. Search the web to plant trees. Might need to read a little more about this.
This is what these people. You know what?
Wait, are they using their ad revenue to fund tree planting? That's kind of cool. I never heard of it. It was just in the dropdown in the Chrome settings for search engines, and I accidentally clicked on it. And now I'm searching
Germans.
Now I'm searching Ecosia.
Oh, they're a B Corp
for the Windows version of Git.
Huh.
Anyway, I'm sorry to go on.
I like Git is interesting. Git LFS is I don't know if I like. It's challenging.
What is LFS?
It's large files, so it's for binary files that are larger than 50 megabytes.
I see.
Texture maps and atlasing and stuff like that.
Like I'm looking for the Windows version to see who makes it. Is it just forked and maintained by
Git?
No, the Windows version in particular
Of Git?
Yes. Not core Git, which is obviously like a very fundamental Linux tool.
I think I got it from Chocolatey.
Oh no, I'm talking about who makes it.
I know this is the beautiful thing about Chocolatey. You don't have to know. You just type it in and like Chocolatey install Git and boom, or Choco install Git and you're done.
Choco install whatever. Yeah. I'm curious to see what happens when WinGet is more widely available and see if it eats Choco's lunch or what's going to happen there.
I mean, look, I think it's going to probably drink its milkshake if it's going to do anything.
I guess you're right.
I'm a little I was a little skeezed out because you have to install Chocolatey to install Node for Windows.
Yeah.
Because I tried to do. First, I installed the Linux subsystem and put Ubuntu on the Windows machine. WSL2.
Okay.
That I had to update to 21H1, whatever.
Yes.
Whatever the current major version of Windows is to get that. So I did that and did the Linux install, and I got to the point where I was apt-getting Node.js, the Node packages.
Yes.
And it ate shit because it was like, something is bad here. This thing you're trying to do is too new for us to understand. We're going to throw a bunch of error warnings. And then I did the thing that lets you ignore the version erroring problems. And then it just didn't work. So I gave up and just installed Node for Windows and did all that stuff. So it ended up working out. It was really good. That press kit thing is really neat because you literally open an XML file and type in a bunch of text, and you have to make sure you exit out any non XML compatible characters like ampersands.
Just escape all your stuff. What's the escape?
Escape your characters.
What's the escape character?
I just changed. I'm going to tell you the truth. I didn't take the time to look up what the escape character was. I just rewrote the sentences that had escape characters, so I didn't have to deal with it.
Took out anything that needed to be escaped.
Yep.
Oh boy.
You know how I did it? I went to an XML validator website.
Great.
And I copied out small chunks of the web page until it validated. And then I was like, okay, well, the problem's clearly here.
I mean, more and more over time, I get the impression this is how everything happens.
I used to feel bad about doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, I was like, I have a few hours to do this and I would like to see my daughter tonight. So,
right. I mean, we have a lot of very skilled developers on our Discord, and yet I still see them all the time saying things like, I don't know how I would get any development done without Google. Like, I don't know what I did before Stack Exchange, or, you know what I mean? I
mean, some of the people I know who are the best programmers I've ever known literally have a portrait monitor beside their computer so they can keep the docs open on it all the time.
Right.
And like Google search windows. So I think that's like, if we don't use the tools that we have to expand the capacity of our brains, why do we build those tools?
That's a good point. When you put it that way, it's hard to argue with.
Yeah, like let the machines do the remembering and let us do the thinking.
Oh, man. Speaking of machines, you want to wrap up here? We'll talk about bots a little bit.
I love bots.
Well, I didn't want to spend the whole episode on your game necessarily, but maybe we'll get back to this. I was interested in the stuff you mentioned about putting up guardrails in your game to discourage toxic behavior and encourage good behavior.
Oh, yeah. So let's see. Chet talked about this in some of the press that we did this week, so I can talk about this stuff without making anybody upset with me.
Okay.
So for example, if you're playing Left 4 Dead and they drop items in the world that are unique items like power-ups, or like imagine, so you know, like we like the idea of class-based games, like your Deep Rocks, where you pick a class and then you play that role the entire time you're playing, and then like you level up that character and he becomes kind of your guy in that game, right? But the downside of that kind of class-based game is that then you end up being the person in your group. If you play with a regular group, you become that guy and you can't really try the other things. So like if you want to be the engineer in Deep Rock, but you're usually the driller, then sorry, too bad. You're the driller for life. Right. We, instead of making people choose, like tying classes to the characters in the game, Lancer, Nesser, Guion, or Liu, everybody starts with the same skills. Right. And then as you play through the game, you find upgrade stations, perk upgrade stations called matter compilers. And the AI places the AI knows about what you're doing, Brad. It knows how you play, and it knows whether you're playing with people you usually play with or don't. And it gives you perks to choose from, like a set of 2 or 3 perks to choose from. And you can build out a multi-class, like you can build out your own class each time. So you can put everything into like upgrading your pulse shield, the knockback thing that pushes the bad guys away from you. And then make that like do damage and be an offensive skill. Or you can, spread your points around, become kind of a generalist, like, make you the healer and pretty good at damage. Or you can load everything into like one of the guns, and then you'll get, like headshots will make the bad guys explode or something like that. And the upshot is you get a wildly different play. It's part of making a game that's infinitely replayable, right? Is like the character progression is different each game. But the reason, this is back to your question, the reason we do that way is that if we just dropped those things as like a consumable in the world, then the person who was in the lead would end up collecting all of those, and the people behind wouldn't get any. So like if you're a new player and you're slower, then you're penalized for being new. Whereas this makes it an exciting moment for everybody. You're like, hey, I found a matter compiler. Everybody gather around. You all go stand around the thing. You pick out your upgrade, and like there's an opportunity for the enemies to attack at that point and apply some pressure and stuff like that. It's fun.
Okay, that sounds cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of like it turns out it's a lot of like little stuff like that where you're not putting the players in competition with each other necessarily. You're just giving them you're putting them in situations that foster cooperation instead of competition.
Well, the reason that comment stood out to me earlier in the episode is that's also a lesson you have taught me with Discord. Oh, with the TechPod Discord server, which is, I assume, is a lesson you learned running your own Discord for your Twitch channel before that.
Maybe.
Which is that, like, you basically told me early on, like, you can essentially influence the culture of your community just by modeling the type of good behavior that you would like to see, right?
Oh yeah.
Like the thing that really stood out to me was that you made an effort early on. There's a little message in the Discord whenever somebody joins for the first time that just is like, oh, so and so is here, and like you told me you made an effort to go and emote at every one of those you saw
Every single, as like for the first year, I did every one that I could find. I'm sure I missed some, and I'm sorry, but yeah.
Right. And like now everybody does that. Like it's just a nice, fun little warm thing. And like now people do goofy custom ones that are like goofing on people's usernames and all kinds of stuff like that.
Or like sometimes it says, "I hope you brought pizza," and then that person always gets a bunch of pizza slices.
Right. Like
I love that stuff.
It's goofy, you know. It's such a small little thing, but it's like it kind of increases the feeling of sort of camaraderie, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's the benefit of being able to do this slowly over time, right? Like is that, you know, we started quietly and slow.
Yes.
It's got to be I don't want to say scary, because scary is not exactly the right word, but like you kind of went from 0 to 1,000 on Nextlander.
Yes, we have a very large Discord, and like, to be clear, moderation is coming. Like we are trying to start thinking about how to shape that. Like with a server that big, you've got to have some actual guardrails in place. But even there, people have been super chill so far. And like I've tried to take that lesson that you taught me there and do some of that same stuff and just, you know, everything doesn't have to be heavy-handed moderation and rules all the time, I guess is the point. Like you can from the bottom up try to influence things in a positive direction and not just drop rule books on people constantly.
Well, I was gonna say this is one of the benefits of being old and having an older audience is like,
sure,
like the people who want to engage with the stuff that I make now and that you make now are probably older and less likely to tolerate bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, they're less likely to create bullshit. And like you end up in a situation where like on my Twitch Discord, the mods are just kind of like they're conversation stewards, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't ban people. I think we banned a couple of my daughter's like school friends who found the Discord and came in and rickrolled one of our mods.
Maybe better not to. The less said about that, the better.
Yeah, look, that was funny. It's fine. That resulted in maybe the most awkward parent conversation I've ever had, which was like, "Hey, here I'm going to tell you a bunch of stuff all at once, and then you can ask some questions at the end. But let me just talk for a minute. I do this thing every night, and yeah."
This sounds like parenting guidebook market opportunity. You know,
look, they were like
when to talk to your child about Discord moderation.
No. It's like how to introduce your children's friends to the fact that your dad streams video games on Twitch every night.
Yes, this is a problem that is unique to our generation.
Yeah, and like it's a book for like Vinny and me and I guess Greg Miller now, and you know, people who you know, Drake and Andrea's kid, and like people who have public streaming personas and also have children, but also being the first generation that truly grew up with technology and video games, right, and communications. Yeah,
like, you know, our parents never had to deal with this stuff because they were not into these things, and the people after us won't have to deal with it either, because by then it'll just be a fact of life. Everybody will understand it, right? But
there's always a new thing, I think, right? Like the people growing up now are the ones that grew up with AR or whatever.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There will be new technologies, but I mean, I would argue there were no technologies previously, you know, like electronic communications kind of didn't exist in this form.
That is, I mean, it's weird though, Brad, because like there is such a wide spectrum of technology experience in the parent group of my daughter's class, because like Gina and I are on the way old side for first kid in you know, whatever grade she's in now. I'm not going to say, you know what I mean? It's like, so there are some people in my daughter's class who are young millennials. There are some people who are parents. There are some people who are like, you know, somewhere between young Gen X, like mid Gen X. So like it's a wide range. There are parents who are 50 and there are parents who are 25.
Wow.
And there's an equally wide spectrum of technology experience and embrasure. Sure. Like some of the kids didn't get an iPad until pandemic started, right? And they needed a computer that they could do schoolwork with. Right. Some of the kids hadn't played video games or any of that stuff until then too. And that's kind of like, if there's one universal, it's that the games as social spaces and like a way to interact with your friends, even when you can't be with them in person, exploded over the last year and a half. And like that I think is ultimately going to be a really good thing.
Yes. Very interesting time to be online.
Yes. I guess that's the place to wrap it up, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. I hope people like this episode. Let us know what you think about this episode. I always feel a little bad. This is supposed to be a sort of topic-driven show, and when we just come in and ramble about whatever, I hope people like it.
Yeah. So next couple of weeks, we have a couple of really interesting. We have a really interesting guest lined up that I have to book a time with, so we can actually get a recording done. And then we can also talk about if you all care about what we think about WWDC and Google I/O, let us know.
Yeah,
and we'll put together an episode for that next week.
I'm always mixed on that side, especially if we do like an Apple only episode. I worry that we're going to lose Android people and vice versa. So that stuff's always a little hard to.
Well, so the challenge for me is that as somebody who doesn't engage with Android on the reg anymore, it's hard. Like I'm always worried that I'm going to not. Like I'm going to not understand the important thing about the Google I/O announcements in a way that is important. Like we intentionally shy away from ripped from the headline stuff on this podcast.
Yes.
But if it's something you all want, let us know and we'll do it.
Yeah.
As always, you can send emails to techpod@content.town. I think Brad made a.
I didn't do it yet. I need to do it.
Well, it's up by now. They're not hearing this until the future.
Yeah, I totally made.
Good job, man.
You talking about the Q&A channel?
Yeah, the Q&A channel.
Yeah, we're gonna to kind of backstop our monthly email episodes. I'm gonna make a Q&A channel on the Discord where people can drop questions in as well.
Does that mean you're gonna have to say Q&As now instead of emails?
Guess so. Wow. Emails, and we'll figure it out.
I've always liked turning Q's into A's. That's one of my favorite things to do.
That's not bad. Run it through our patented scientific process.
Yes, it's a 12-step.
Figured that would be a slightly lower barrier to entry for people who are active on the Discord to just throw show questions in there. So
yeah, and I think we'll make it a slow channel, so like there's not a conversation. It's just like you post your one thing and then you go the fuck away.
Yes, we'll put the slow mode on there so people can just drop questions as they think of them and move on. But that should be up on the Discord soon.
We might be able to make it so that they can't even see the questions once they posted them. So then it's just a black hole into which questions go.
Interesting. Can we do that?
We have that power. Yes.
The Discord roles, and this is like a whole other episode almost. The Discord roles and permissions framework is extremely powerful, but also a lot to learn.
Discord is awesome.
They've done some work. There is a lot of stuff going on in that thing.
It is very thoughtful what they have done with the way those channels work.
Like it is way beyond just like graphical IRC at this point.
Yes. Speaking of Discords, it's a great time to mention the Fabulous Tech Pod Patreon, where you can get access to the even more fabulous Tech Pod Discord. I think we've committed internally to changing the tiers at the end of this month.
Yes, tentatively, we're getting there.
So if you want to get in the Discord at the $2 level, then now is the time. You can go to patreon.com/techpod. And for $2, you can join our community. We have a bunch of interesting, like there was a big conversation yesterday during E3 stuff at the Big Tech Announcements channel, like talking about the Summer Game Fest show and Day of the Dev stuff that was unveiled. There's literally always something interesting happening, and there's always good stuff to learn. So highly recommend that if that is interesting to you. And then again, that's patreon.com/techpod. And as always, at the end of our shows, we always thank our executive producer tier patrons, including Andrew Slosky, The Bunny Fiend, Jacob Chappell, Joel Krauska, Twinkle Twinkie, David Allen, and James Kamek. Thank you all so much for your support and everyone who supports the pod.
Thank you so much. I don't know if this needs to be said. Am I being paranoid here?
What?
I just want to mention that like I remain fully committed to this podcast. I love this podcast, and I especially love the community that we have put together.
Thanks, Brad.
And I just want everybody to know I will be.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going anywhere. Before you started Nextlander, we had a conversation when I was like, "Hey, I think I'm going to take this full-time job working for Chet." And you were like, do you want to stop doing the podcast? I was like, no, like I didn't say, do you want to stop doing it? I was more like, I was like trying to make sure you weren't going to stop. Yeah. So like the thing I said to you is I intend to do this podcast until I can't talk or nobody listens.
Right.
Because I enjoy spending. I like the hour that we sit down and talk about some weird tech nonsense is one of my favorite hours every week. It's always good.
Absolutely feel the exact same way. Like this. I mean, this is the show where I can be the most myself, I would say, which is a great comfort to me. And also that Discord, like to a large extent, helped me get through the pandemic last year. Like it was a real lifeline to interacting with cool people.
Well, yeah. And like also it's been incredibly powerful for me because like coming out of the end of Foo, you when you have a business that hasn't gone well, you kind of are like, well, shit, what should I do? Should I just go fucking start driving Uber or something? What am I going to do? And like, not that there's anything wrong with driving Uber, but like, I literally had no idea when we were starting this, like what my next thing was. I was like, if I do a podcast and I'm not attached to Adam and Norm and all the places I have been before, people are going to listen or people are going to want to engage with that. Yeah. And it was really gratifying and fun, and also a wonderful excuse to sit down and hang out with you every week, Brad.
Absolutely. So. Yes. I am like you. I will do this thing for as long as people want to listen to it. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. So
that I have ever done.
Yeah. Back the show if you want. If you don't, that's fine. Just tell your friends. That's the best thing.
Just thanks for listening. Thanks for leaving iTunes reviews. Spread the word.
Yeah. And hey, so one last business. This is I'm gonna kind of shill for my new job, but I just want to shill for like indie game people everywhere. If you like indie games, and I feel like a lot of people here probably do, like the kindest thing you can do to an indie game that like isn't available to buy yet is to go on Steam and mash the wishlist button. Because that wishlist button is what drives discoverability across Steam for things you can't buy yet.
Interesting.
So like if you saw games that were announced yesterday, and I'm not asking you to come do the game that I'm working on. I'm just saying like that 2D cell shaded thing that was right at the beginning that had the song that looks like a Zelda exploration game. Sable.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yes.
I couldn't get to Steam fast enough to mash the button on that thing. It looks unbelievable.
So that feeds into algorithms that pushes stuff.
That feeds into what gets it feeds into what gets shown on the new and upcoming on Steam.
I see.
And that stuff drives that is make or break for new games, especially new franchises and for indie studios.
I didn't know it was that crucial.
Yeah. So the more people who mash those wishlist buttons, like literally take 5 minutes and go down the list of games. I think that there's even a Summer Game Fest curated list on Steam, and you can go down and see all the games that were in there yesterday and literally hit the button on anything you thought was cool and would like to know more about, because that helps those people so much.
Yeah, that's a hot tip.
I did not understand that before.
There's a lot of things you learn when you go on the inside.
Dude, you have no fucking idea. Yeah, it's always good to talk to you, Brad. We'll see you next week, I guess.
Too. Yeah, thank you, everybody.
And thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you all next week, too.